good evening, and happy Christmas. For your listening pleasure today, we have an extract from The Woman in Black by Susan Hill. The drawing room at Monk's Peace is long and low, with tall windows at either end, close-curtained now, but by day letting in a great deal of light from both north and south. Tonight, festoons and swags of fresh greenery, gathered that afternoon by Esme and Isabel, hung over the stone fireplace, and intertwined with the leaves were berries and ribbons of scarlet and gold. At the far end of the room stood the tree, candle-lit and bedecked, and beneath it were piled the presents. There were flowers too, vases of white chrysanthemums, and in the centre of the room on a round table a pyramid of gilded fruit, and a bowl of oranges stuck all about with cloves, their spicy scent filling the air, and mingling with that of the branches and wood smoke to be the very aroma of Christmas. I sat down in my own armchair, drew it back a little from the full blaze of the fire, and began the protracted and soothing business of lighting up a pipe. As I did so, I became aware that I had interrupted the others in the midst of lively conversation, and that Oliver and Will, at least, were restless to continue. "Well," I said, through the first cautious puffs at my tobacco, "and what's all this?" There was a further pause, and Esme shook her head, smiling over her embroidery. "Come." Then Oliver got to his feet, and began to go about the room rapidly, switching off every lamp save the lights upon the Christmas tree at the far end, so that when he returned to his seat, we had only the immediate candlelight by which to see one another. And Esme was obliged to lay down her sewing, not without a murmur of protest. "May as well do the job properly," Oliver said with some satisfaction. "Oh, you boys. Now come on, Will, your turn, isn't it? No, Edmund's. Aha!" said the youngest of the Ainley brothers in an odd, deep voice. "I could, an if I would." "Must we have the lights out?" Isabel spoke as if to much smaller boys. "Yes, sis, we must. That's if you want to get the authentic atmosphere." "But I'm not sure that I do." Oliver gave a low moan. "Get on with it, then, someone." Esme leaned over to me. "They are telling ghost stories." "Yes," said Will, his voice unsteady with both excitement and laughter. "Just the thing for Christmas Eve. It's an ancient tradition." The lonely country house, the guests huddled around the fireside in a darkened room, the wind howling at the casement, Oliver moaned again. And then came Aubrey's stolid, good-humoured tones. "Better get on with it, then." And so they did. Oliver, Edmund and Will, vying with one another to tell the horridest, most spine-chilling tale, with much dramatic effect and mocked, terrified shrieking. They outdid one another in the far extremes of inventiveness, piling agony upon agony. They told of dripping stone walls in uninhabited castles, and of ivy-clad monastery ruins by moonlight, of locked inner rooms and secret dungeons, dank charnel houses, and overgrown graveyards, of footsteps creaking upon staircases, and fingers tapping at casements, of howlings and shriekings, groanings and scuttlings, and the clanking of chains, of hooded monks and headless horsemen, swirling mists and sudden winds, insubstantial spectres and sheeted creatures, vampires and bloodhounds, bats and rats and spiders, of men found at dawn, and women turned white-haired and raving lunatic, and of vanished corpses and curses upon heirs. The stories grew more and more lurid, wilder and sillier, and soon the gasps and cries merged into fits of choking laughter, as each one, even gentle Isabel, contributed more ghastly detail. At first I was amused, indulgent, but as I sat on, listening in the firelight, I began to feel set apart from them all, an outsider to their circle. I was trying to suppress my mounting unease, to hold back the rising flood of memory. This was a sport, a high-spirited and harmless game among young people. For the festive season, and an ancient tradition too, as Will had rightly said, there was nothing torment and trouble me, nothing of which I could possibly disapprove. I did not want to see McKilljoy, old and stodgy and unimaginative. I longed to enter into what was nothing more nor less than good fun. I fought a bitter battle within myself, my head turned away from the firelight so that none of them should chance to see my expression, which I knew began to show signs of discomfiture. And then, to accompany a final banshee howl from Edmund, the log that had been blazing on the hearth collapsed suddenly, and after sending up a light spatter of sparks and ash, died down, so that there was near darkness and silence in the room. I shuddered. I wanted to get up and go around, putting on every light again, see the sparkle and glitter of colour and Christmas decorations, have the hearth blazing again cheerfully. I wanted to banish the chill that had set upon me and the sensation of fear in my breast. Yet I could not move. It had, for the moment, paralysed me, just as it had always done. It was a long and forgotten, once too familiar sensation. Good night.